Welcome to another episode of the Texas Authors TV show.
Discover new authors, discover great books, any genre you love. Come take a look, hosted by fellow authors. Real talk, real spark, quick fun spotlights right from the start. Watch it anytime, share it when you do. Texas Authors TV.
Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Texas Authors TV show. And today we have with us Kelli Christina, who has had a #1 bestseller, who's working on revising it, and it's coming out. It's actually out right now. She will also be a speaker at the gala at the Lone Star Festival. And we won't say what she's talking about. That's going to be a secret, or check the website. You can do both. But welcome, Kelli. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you, Alan, and I'm excited to be here myself. You've been a wonderful connection.
I appreciate that. So we're going to start with a very simple, basic question.
Okay.
What got you started in writing?
That's a great and challenging question for me. I actually started writing, and I think I've always been great at, long letters, communication, blogging. But about 15 years ago, 2015, Alan, I actually started government blogging. And at the time I was working with Texas government officials, of course. This was all part-time. But I applied with Donald Trump campaign. And of course, the state of Texas was all, woo, we got a female. It's like, like Barbie, we need a female politician. Anyway, our Texas government officials were so excited that year that they, pushed me with Ted Cruz. They sent me over with Bernie Sanders. They didn't care if I went Republican, Democrat, whatever it was. They were going to take me as the female VP for the state of Texas that year. And so, Alan, I started, and it was a 2-year project, and it's just something that I would do, all right? But I took 2 years to interview the people in this country. And, of course, there's a lot of people in Texas, but out of state. And then, of course, I used my own mind, but I decided in 2015, I would go ahead and skip a campaign manager and planner, and I would just write a book. How do you run the United States of America? And I am a very big believer, Alan. A lot of people think, yes, I'm a very, very smart lady, but I always tell people impacted in my brain is a very large network of what's called people that have educated me in so many different areas in life and business, that this brain isn't me, this is my network, all right? But I took my brain, I took my network, and I wrote my first book, Togetherness, People's Ideas for the Common People. And, years ago, that's what people and Americans wanted to see in our country, for anybody that ran for office, and how you could impact our future. It's a very smart book. But, at some point, Alan, the reason why you will notice with my book project, most of my books are making a difference. I'm the founder of a Making a Difference, company. So you are going to find a lot of politics in my books, all right? But it's my passion. And at some point you decide that you want the general public to know your life story, or the inside of your work, or your vision, or, anyway, the entire package. That's how I started, Alan.
And that's a good way to start, definitely. With that particular book, you mentioned you work or talked to a lot of different politicians and stuff. What was the most challenging part of that book for you?
The challenging part of writing that book, it was easy, Alan. I wrote it in my part-time, I was bored space, along with how many jobs I was working that year. This is how I'm built, this is how I'm designed to sit down and write it out. If you ever wonder, by the way, the government, if you ever want to know if the United States government paid me for the job, I'm going to tell you no. I had a company, or I had jobs that paid my bills. Okay. And actually, Alan, a lot of our government officials, people, they're out there, they're not really giving them credit. They don't know that our congressmen, our senators, and, some of these people have multiple jobs to pay their bills. They would never know that, all right, unless they were to actually get a hold of the government officials. So anyway, Wrote that book in part-time, but if anybody were to ever wonder, like, what in the 10 years that I worked with the, government officials, I mean, obviously, Alan, I've got in good faith a whistleblower's war against a broken system that just released in July. Okay. That is a big piece of an 8-year legal battle. All right. But that's not it when you're working with the government. You're not just, well, depending on who you are, you're not working on one topic, you're working on various topics. So if you were to ever wonder, what are those various topics? What do I stand for? Even, that book is out and old dated, I say, because it's, some of it would, if I were to rebuild a campaign plan book, you would need to add current times, obviously. However, there are some brilliant ideas in that book, and they do come from my mind and my brain. But you would actually, Alan, have to run for an election to make these type things happen in this country, period.
So, okay, that brings up a whole bunch of other questions.
Oh, no.
With the aspect that you have to run to make those changes, and you, I understand, have no interest in running for an office at this time. So who could you work with to make those changes that maybe is coming up the ladder to run for a larger office or something of that nature?
Alan, that is kind of a loaded question, okay? Because you will actually find out, even in my newest book, all right? First, you don't wake up one day, all right, and you know all the government officials and you work with them. That is not how it works, okay? You would actually have to read my newest book just to understand, 15 years ago, how did I start becoming introduced? What's with all the attorneys? What's with Obama or Donald Trump in my book? Well, you're going to have to read the book. You do not wake up and know the government officials. You don't snap your fingers and that's how you work with them. Something happens, Alan. Okay, so, for instance, I'm the female that, I used to work with Sam Johnson, Congressman Sam Johnson. He's deceased right now. Van Taylor took over for him. But, in the book, you would have to come to realize that government officials introduce you to government officials and kind of put you on the inside when you are working with them, if that makes sense. However, even in my newest book, In Good Faith, you will find an 8-year legal battle, Alan. And when you are working with larger problems in this country, I always tell people, if you smile and say, oh, I want to do politics, you better start laughing at yourself right now. Do you actually understand the job? Okay. And I bring that up because even if we're just looking at medical staffing, okay, yes, we had problems that were a federal problem, right? It affected the entire country. But sometimes you have to learn what you can actually get done in Washington, D.C., or what you actually have to take down to a state level, right? And a lot of times it's based on where the business is based and then those laws. So basically what I'm saying is that, yes, I was over the years proven highly effective with my particular government work, but it's all at a higher level. And you learn what kind of issues get buried in this country, right? You learn, guess what? If the media ignores problems, then guess what? The government will just sweep it under the rug. There's a whole lot you learn when you're on the inside. And it's not just that easy to snap your fingers and say, oh, I want to be in politics and I'm going to run the entire country. It's crazy. One year, I learned about petitions. I was fighting fathers' rights. That was in my book. That's an issue for me, fathers' rights. And we're not going to it would be a whole different book. We had talked about fathers' rights and what was going on. But the point is that, and I was out talking, our biggest fathers' right movement is actually in Alaska. So I don't know if you know that. But to actually set off a petition and force your government officials to work, you got to have a very loud voice to get that petition signed. It's not that easy. So basically what I'm saying, Alan, is it's a whole lot of learning in a whole lot of years, and a whole lot of people don't want to do it. They don't. It's a tough job.
We're just about at the end of our first segment here, and you mentioned having the loudest voice and stuff like that. It reminds me of squeaky wheels get the job done. that type of thing, because the louder that squeaky wheel is, people are going to get on it and get it taken care of, which is kind of sad in some ways, but it is one of those things in politics that you kind of reinforce it's true.
Correct. And you know what? You can get enough people signed on a petition and force the government to work for you. And that's from years ago, just another topic. But sometimes you got to almost have the voice of the media to get the largest message out there, or you're just sitting like a duck on the water. Anyway.
Well, that brings us to a
Well,
perfect
over
spot
there.
where we can,
Do it.
we're going to take a break and let our sponsors do their thing. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
Texas has always been more than a place. It is a story still being written.
From history and heritage to imagination and innovation, the voices of Texas help shape who we are.
Road to Texas 200 is a statewide journey to celebrate readers, writers, history, and the literary future of Texas.
We are building momentum toward March 2nd, 2036, the 200th anniversary of Texas.
For authors, it is a chance to be seen, supported, and celebrated as part of Texas literary history.
For readers, it is a chance to discover powerful voices, unforgettable stories, and the people who help tell the story of Texas.
This is more than a campaign. It is a chance to help Texas read, remember, and rise together.
Join the journey. Take part in the Road to Texas 200. Visit roadtotexas200.org today.
Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Authors TV show. Today we have Kelli, and it's Drew Blank. Oh, Kelli, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Say your last name for me. I'm sorry.
It's Kelli Christina.
Christina, I don't know why I can't say it.
Make you say Kelly Dennehy Christina. That would be.
Oh, no.
That's like trying to say your last name. I'm like, okay, Alan. I'm just going to stick with Alan. Okay, Alan B. That's okay. Kelli Christina. We can start again.
All right. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Texas Authors TV show. We have with us today Kelli Christina, who has several books published, but we're going to talk about her newest one, In Good Faith. Let's start with what caused you to write that book.
So that book's my baby, Alan. But you have to understand that is a new edition off Writing Executive Roller Coaster, Medical Staffing Cases, which is now shut down. You cannot buy it in the public. But In Good Faith is the newest book through my publisher. And that book is an original litigation book. And as a matter of fact, when I was out at Barnes & Noble and we were doing the book signing last weekend, I like to do that. I brought the original 225 page just so that people could see, because they don't always know how much work goes into a book project, to make that happen. And they were amazed, like, oh my gosh, that's the original 225 pages, and it's all legal. And it is. And by the way, In Good Faith is an 8-year legal battle. And it's how I would meet, the United States government up to, Obama and Trump. All right. And the reason why I bring it up is that just the time period. It took 2 years. And of course, I was going part-time because I had other jobs on my hands, right? But just 2 years to fictionalize everybody in Texas and Washington, D.C., Allen. So legally, you can put out that book and tell the story. And so that book is labeled a notebook memoir. It's also, it's the #1 legal thriller, but it's also a very big inspirational testimonial, because, Alan, in the book, there would be one large, enormous lawsuit that would come out of Dallas, Texas, and other court cases would snowball over the years. But it was a big enough issue that there'd be over a dozen law firms in Dallas involved with what was going on in that staffing and recruitment team. All right. So there's a lot of attorneys sneaking around. It's a juicy story. But in the book, Alan, the attorneys would label me the whistleblower. And, it's not, years ago, it's not like, oh, I think I want to be a whistleblower. I'm just, what? I was an innocent. The staff was innocent on everything that happened in that office. And you asked me to lie to a Texas judge, right? And you already know if somebody is at work, if your executives are asking you to lie to a Texas judge, you're already in a lot of deep, right? But anyway, I had a decision to make. I could keep my job. I could keep my money, right? And lie to a Texas judge, or there was the door. And I took the door. And I would become homeless in the book. So and a lot of times I tell people, God trains you, Alan. God, I believe it. In my faith, I believe that through hard times, I've been trained to be bigger, thicker, stronger, tougher, right? But I had money my entire life. And I would, make a decision not to lie to a Texas judge, but I would lose my money. I would be unable at the time to get a job, and I would go homeless. And even years ago, I spent time with our Texas government officials on the underprivileged and the homeless in this country. And I would tell them I had a lot of points. It's actually in my first book, because when you represent people, Alan, you can't make a decision, I'm just going to represent the rich. Or I'll just represent. No, we have 3 levels in this country that you represent. You represent the underprivileged, the middle class, and the rich. That's who you represent if you're doing the job right. And I would tell our Texas, and these are senators and congressmen, you know what, guys, and I had busting points for the underprivileged on what they needed in this country. And I said, it's not that I don't think you care. I think that you have not walked in their shoes. I think God put me at that moment for a very short moment, to learn, Alan, the other side of the fence, because we have good people in underprivileged to just say, anyway, don't get me on that I'll be all day long on that topic, right? The underprivileged and what they need. But I have a lot of talking points in my first book about that. What do our underprivileged need? Because they need something, Alan. They need help. And you know what? We have a calling. I believe it. I'm a labeled very generous person. And you know what I have to say no to on a budget or whatever, but I'm going to go to my grave known as a generous person. And we are called to pay it forward. We are called for the people out there that we are blessed and we bring in more. We are called out there to try to make a difference for the people that are not so blessed.
So with that in mind, what is the purpose of you writing the book? What did you want people to get out of it?
Which book, Alan?
In Good Faith.
It was time to, let me tell you something, Alan. In the matter of who I am in even my talk show, I am the very private person that likes to hide behind the curtain, which means the curtain is somebody else is out on stage and I'm behind the curtain, pulling all the strings and everything. And
The wizard.
you don't even need to know I'm there. All right. And, it's almost humorous how many years I worked with the government. Even my family was like, Kelly's working with the government. Don't even ask what. And they knew behind closed doors, I was working on some very, very big stuff in this country and issues. Right. But I was labeled so effective that, Alan, I could do it again. I could go work for some government officials quietly behind the door and pull more crap off that you would never know. So one day we would come out with it. Let's tell the story. Let's get out there, Kelly. Honestly, when riding an executive roller coaster, and by the way, the big litigation book that I'm talking about, the rewrite on the book that's right out on the market. The original litigation book is called the Donald Trump book. That was a nickname in 2018, and it's because that original litigation was mailed to the White House. And of course, Donald Trump knew all about it. He knew I filed the federal investigation by myself. But I had a letter from Donald Trump in 10 days. And I appreciate the respect and the follow-up. I do.
So back to the question, what are you hoping people get out of In Good Faith?
You know what? In good faith, with every story, there's a brand new legacy, Alan. And so I did create, now you didn't say this, I'm just telling you. In 2026, I created a new legacy for that book. If I was going to take all the time to put it back on the market, and the legacy is this, okay? That book, Alan, is probably going to go into a movie. All right. It's dramatic. It's juicy. It's great entertainment. So read it. Love it. Some people say, wow, did this really happen? Yeah, it did. All right. But I tell people this, okay, even with our younger people, I would love, Alan, for my book to go out to our colleges and universities, on our young people out there that are working on business degrees, because they aspire, right? They want to be managers, directors, executives, entrepreneurs, CEOs, and that is fantastic and great. So read my book, be entertained, but do not copy anybody in this book. And let's use this as a tool, a roadmap, so that our younger leaders can be better than us, make better decisions. I'm a very big advocate personally on take some time on learn legal in whatever industry beforehand. Don't wait till disaster happens for your office where you're dragging in the attorneys. So do better by setting your team up further with success, and use this as a roadmap. Let's make our younger leaders stronger. That's legacy.
Good. The book has been out for just under a month now, as of the recording of this.
Mhm.
Do you plan on doing speaking engagements about the book? Hopefully in colleges or anywhere else?
I am going to plan speaking engagements around what I call open doors and windows, Alan. I do believe you were an open door and window yourself. You're bringing me, and I'm delighted. I am delighted to share my knowledge on publishing, because speaking of what our government officials used me for, Alan, they used me to help correct problems in our American industries. That is where I'm the strongest, okay? And what I have, again, in my brain, in my mind, in my advice, this is not me, just me, Alan. I go out when I have problems in industries and I talk to the CEOs, the executives, the attorneys, the leaders that would know about it. Those are the people you talk to help solve problems or discover, And if you don't talk about problems and they stay hidden, nothing gets fixed, which is a big problem with me.
It's a big problem for a lot of people,
Yeah.
because we're getting pretty tired of things not getting fixed.
Yeah. It's a big wow out there. So anyway, other speaking, I'm already doing a couple ladies groups. in the local Dallas area that really just want me to jump on stage and talk about that book, right? And I'm delighted. But to answer your question, it's open doors and windows. And then I've got to tell you, Alan, you know, my work schedule is insane. So it will be around my work schedule. You know, you will be a vacation this fall. That's what I'm calling you.
Well, hopefully it'll be a fun vacation. So.
Austin is a vacation, Alan. Go ahead.
So we are at that point. We need to step away, let our sponsors do things. We'll be right back.
Hit play, let's see. Texas Authors TV. Discover new authors, discover great books, any genre you love, come take a look. Hosted by fellow authors, real talk, real spark, quick fun spotlights, right from the start. Watch it anytime, share it when you do. Texas Authors TV.
Authors deserve more than random advice, expensive promises, and services that vanish after payment. That is why Bourgeois Media and Consulting created the Author Success Center. Since 2001, we have helped authors find direction, build credibility, gain visibility, and move forward. Through reviews, verification, workshops, resources, and community, ASC provides practical tools for a stronger author journey. Author Success Center, honest guidance, real opportunities. AuthorsSuccess.info.
Welcome back to the Texas Authors TV show. We have Kelli Christina with us. We've been talking about her newest book, In Good Faith, and a few other things. So Kelli, the most important question is, one, do you have a website that has contact information or your schedule of where you're going to be speaking and things of that nature?
Yes. It's going to be really hard not to find me, Alan. I'm pretty loud out there. So I don't go with just one author website. I go with two. So you can catch me, and you know, you would have to put it out, the spelling and everything, but Kelli Dennehy Christina, you know, is my full name, and I do have a website. I do keep a lot of information, and I am asking people to sign up for newsletters and such. I also have Kelli Christina author site, and that I blog on. I do keep people informed. I try to keep all my media on there. Yeah, I stay pretty precise out there. But you know, there's contact informations on both my websites. You can find me on social media, you know, the internet. It's really hard not to find me. You can find me under Kelli Dennehy Christina, or you can find me under Kelli Christina. And I probably have about 10 social media sites out there, Alan. So yeah, most people, they find me. If they need me, they find me.
Good. So the obvious question is, within Good Faith, are you working on a follow-up book or something, a spin-off from it or anything of that nature?
You know, to answer that question, Alan, I am the, you know, people say I have I'm an international best-selling life story. My life story is just a bestseller, right? And all these years later, some people say, you know, well, the reason why, or these are, people always have theories, Alan. One of the theories on me is the reason why my life had to be as hard as what my life had to be is because I had a higher calling over my head. That's the most recent, that's the reason. I don't know, but I am picked for another life story book. I have not, in the matter of businesses and media challenges and what I got going on in rebuilding, Alan, another book is going to probably wait a period because I'm the type, I'm going to see, how are we doing out there? I'm a very focused lady on results. And when I drive a project, I don't know how to go halfway. I got to go right over the top. So, in the right timing, Alan, there'll be another book. I'm the type person that someone could, probably, okay, I'm going to pay you for a book. And I would sit right down and I'd be in the middle of the night and you'd be like, when's the book? Oh, here you go. 3 months later, you got the book. Alan, I can't expect other people to work. Some people can and some people can't. I'm kind of the overachiever. I kind of do. I tend to surprise people on how many jobs or projects I can, do at one time, and they just don't always understand, and they don't have to, and in return, I remind myself that, I can't expect people out there in our country, Alan, to love working or careers as much as all right? They want their time off, right? So, there's a whole lot of things that I know that I can do, but that doesn't mean I expect other people to be the same way. It's the beauty of different people in this country. The book will come, Alan. It's not the time.
I understand. And I had two questions. Oh, one of them is, we asked this of all of our authors, if somebody who has been in your position, let's say with legal issues or stuff of that nature, or just any type of writing, what words of advice do you have for them to sit down and do it? Write it.
I'm writing a book. Alan, you got me on stage, on writing a book and the knowledge that I've obtained. I'm very, very surprised. I am one of those, I don't know why I have to learn the long approach. I don't know why we're hanging authors out. The biggest advice I would tell authors right now is you better get the right legal advice before you start that book. But, that would be something that would come out of my mouth, Alan. Okay. I mean, honestly, Alan, on writing an executive roller coaster or the original 225-page litigation book that we're talking about, I actually had to teach some of our government officials that you can't put that book on the market. Okay. I mean, you can put the book on the market, but next up, you're going to get sued by everybody. All right. So legally, you better know what you're doing with a book project before you start. All right. And this country is advertising, oh, you know what? Skip a publisher and do self-publishing. And oh, you know what? You can keep 100% of your royalties. But you know what this country's not telling you? 101 ways that you're next up to get screwed. So what I say all these years later is you better get a publisher. And then, oh, by the way, make sure your book is copyrighted. Because Alan, right now in this country, I don't know how many thousands of books are out there and they're not officially copyrighted and authors don't know about it. But we'll save that for stage, okay?
And by stage, you are referring to being at the Lone Star Festival, October 17th during the dinner, but you also have a table to sell your books and stuff like that. And I'm sure, knowing you will be more than happy to talk to anybody who stops and says hi. So we appreciate that.
Thank you, Alan. And at my first Barnes and Noble, of course, my father that was there, and it's always amazing. Your parents, they don't really see you work, right? But then they see you work. So anyway, my dad, and I'm a daddy's girl, but daddy saw me. He saw me out selling that book, and he's very old school. And he's like, honey, I've never seen anything like that. You selling that book, in Barnes and Noble. And he's all like, you know what, honey, we could go door to door with that book and you could just sell it. And I'm laughing at my dad because I love him, but I do not have time to go door to door with my book, Alan. That's why we have bookstores and the media. But it was
very true.
Because he saw my sales approach after all these years, and some people say I could sell ice to Eskimos, and I probably could.
I've been blessed with that statement as well, so I fully understand. And this is unfortunately the end of our show. I thank you very much, Kelli Christina, for being with us, and we wish everybody a good night.
Thank you, Alan.
Texas Authors TV is produced by B. Allen Bourgeois for the Texas Authors Museum. Copyright 2026. If you would like to become a sponsor, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com. If you would like to be on the show, please email us at texasauthors@outlook.com. Music is Frolic of Words, created for the show